Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Hello guys, Bushcraft family back again with another podcast. This podcast is a little bit more on my life stories. This one, some may like and some may not. But this is when I was very young. It all started back when I lived in Pueblo, Colorado. We stayed in a very old trailer in a very old trailer court at the time. Most of the time I slept out in the car. Crashed out, thinking of what to do with my life. Most teenagers think the same thing. Try to come up with their plans of how they're going to go through life and whatnot. So I find out that there's this place called Job Corps where you can go live in a campus type setting with other teenagers your age and learn a vocational skill and work on your GED. So I decided to go ahead and do this. They give you many options. You decide what vocational skill that you want to learn. At very first time, I wanted to learn more about working on vehicles and stuff. So I wanted to be a mechanic. The one place that had a excellent teachers and staff and resources for this was in South Dakota. A little place called Nemo, South Dakota. The name of the place was Box Elder. It was Job Corps. It's a very small one for the area it was. And I signed up, and within a week I was riding a bus to Nemo, South Dakota. Now Box Elder Job Corps is not in Nemo. Really, it is probably about 5 to 7, maybe 8 miles away, out in the middle of the woods. So we get there, and they give me a tour of the whole place, and you get to go see every vocational skill that they offer. And they had cooking. I almost went in for cooking, but I changed my mind. They had welding. They also had bricklaying. And I passed on being a mechanic and went straight for bricklaying. That looked like so much fun. I had to do it. So I changed my vocation to a bricklayer. And ended up doing pretty good in bricklaying. I passed everything in bricklaying, went to block laying, tile, stone, I don't even know what it's called, stone laying, stone blocking, or whatever it is. Got to learn all that until I went into welding, because you had to learn how to weld rebar and things like this, bend it, cut wire, and things like that. I loved it. So I talked to the school and said I want to change to welding. And they said, well, you'll have to start over. That means an extra year of this place. And as normal places like this, there was plenty of rules and things that you had to do. But it was very interesting. I had a lot of fun. I'll show you a little map of the area. Okay, as you guys can see, this is Box Elder Job Corps, not too far from Nemo, South Dakota, which is way over here. There it is right there. Not very big. Still at this time, very small. Well, let's head back over to the school here. And evidently it's still Box Elder Job Corps, Nemo, South Dakota. When you first come into the place, this is almost identical to what I remember. You come into this place here. This is where you check in. You eat your sandwich when you first get here. And then they assign you to a dorm. Now there are 4 dorms here. Really surprised they didn't come up with more. There may be some over here because I don't remember any of this stuff over here. But we have the 4 dorms. And I was in dorm number 2, which they called Deuces Wild. We had our own nickname. None of the other dorms did. I ended up living upstairs. One point I was over in here, if you guys can see my little mouse over here. I was at the top corner over here and also over here. Right about here are the showers. Had showers upstairs and downstairs. But if you go over here, this is a vocational area right here. This is where the bricklaying area was. This is where you learned how to do masonry and all that kind of fun stuff. Over in here, the biggest part of this area here was where the welding was. Over here was carpentry. The rest of this was the mechanical and all that stuff. Over here is where we went to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This was the cafeteria. This is where they train cooks and everything how to cook. Most of the time, they didn't do a very good job. And right here is where we went to school. I still remember these pathways because most of the time I was not very good. So I did a lot of shoveling snow in the wintertime. So I know these pathways well. Over here, you'll see a gym. This is where actual other high schools and things would come to challenge us for volleyball, for basketball, things like that. Over here was a rec hall. This is the rec hall here. And they had pool tables, that type of thing, television, all that fun stuff. Over in here was more or less where you could buy snacks and things like that. Couldn't buy no tobacco or anything like that, because that, that was against law back then too. At the school it was. Well, anyways, I'll show you this part here. We're going to scroll on out of here. As you can see here, you can see this trail. It goes all the way up to Sturgis. And it's a good ways. I would say it was probably around 40 miles, 45, 50 miles, something in that range. Now, when I was in Brick Lane, we used to do jobs in other places like Nemo. We also went to other places around Sturgis. We did a lot of work in Sturgis, Deadwood, National Monument, Mount Rushmore. We went all around and did things like build bathrooms and things like that. Things to do with Brick Lane, Block Lane, things like that. But anyway, let me see where we're at. Okay, there's Nemo, there's Box Elder Job Corps. Now, we went and did a job in Sturgis. It must have been a week before the Sturgis bike rally. And that was the coolest thing I've ever seen at that time. There was bikes, very cool looking bikes, up and down the main street. And yes, there were naked women riding on the back of these bikes all over the place. At that time, it wasn't as strict as it is now, and that was very cool. That was one thing I wanted to stay there and do that, but have to get back to the school. Okay, so we get back to the school. A bunch of us decided. There was at least 20 of us that decided we are going to walk to Sturgis. Now, me being me, I'm thinking to myself, this has to be a thing that happens every year with the people that go to school here. They have to have this happen all the time. So my thought was, we're going to get busted if we're walking down this road to Sturgis. They're going to have the sheriff, the highway patrol, whoever, state police, looking for us when we leave. And we're end up back here in trouble and not have any fun. So my thought was, I'm going to go cross country all the way up through here, until I get to Sturgis. That was my plan. I couldn't talk anybody into it. Finally, I convinced somebody, one of my friends, there's only one that would fall for it. I said, we need to do this. Because nobody else will make it. I guarantee you they're going to get caught before they get to the main road. So he agreed. Let's go do this. And I said, we need to pack enough stuff so we can stay there for a few days. And possibly overnight in the woods. That didn't go over too well. Because we're always being warned about bears and things that would come into the school area. It happened many times because we're out in, the middle of the forest. So it was Friday. We get out of school either we went to school in the morning or we went to school in the afternoon. We did either or. The vocational stuff in the morning or afternoon, you get it. But anyways, it was 4 o'clock. We didn't have much time before it got dark. So I told my friend that we'll end up making it to the main highway before it gets dark. But soon after that, we'll have to find a place to camp out because there's no way that we can make it out there pitch dark, not seeing where we're going through the woods. So we leave there about 4:30 and we walk off into this direction. As you can see on my mouse here, and I know for a fact that we can't go by the big elk cabin over here because we would get busted. There are ranger stations through here, so we had to be careful to miss these. And I do remember making it past this little bend, and this is where my friend left me. He says there's no way we can go the rest of the way through the woods without getting lost. And I said, I got you this far, didn't I? But no, he went up the road like everybody else did. I continued to head out this way. And I would say somewhere in here is where I spent my night in the woods. I didn't spend it on the ground like everybody would think. I didn't make a tent. I climbed up into a tree and slept in a tree. I heard all sorts of noises through that night. Morning came, ate me some fruit that I brought with me, and off I was, trekking through the woods until I made it to Sturgis. Now, at this time, I do not believe that they had this big highway here. I'm not sure. It might have been small or something, but when I walked into town, it was a very small road. It wasn't this main road, well, this back road here. And when I got to Sturgis, it wasn't built up like it is on this map. But I was the only one out of the group of 20 that made it. The one that had made it the furthest was my friend, because down here, when everybody walked this road here to get to Nemo, to head back up the road here, they were busted because they were waiting for everybody to go here. They ended up picking up my friend maybe a mile down the road from where I dropped him off, or where he split from me. And I was the only one that actually made it to Sturgis. Everybody else got caught. I ended up spending 2 nights at Sturgis before I did get in trouble, and was right back to Box Elder Job Corps. But I had a lot of fun. Probably nothing that you would think of doing when you were young, but given the opportunity, I'm sure any one of you would have did the same thing. It was something that, as teenagers, you think it's a good idea and everything. But when it comes down to it, I was in trouble for, I think, at least 6 months for going AWOL, because that was a thing. You had to check in every night. They did roll calls and all that stuff. It was almost like a small military type thing. And if you didn't check in, you would be in trouble. You get on the list for being AWOL, and that was mandatory. 2 weeks of, KP duty, raking, mowing, just labor. And I was in trouble for 6 months, but it was worth it. Anyways, that is it for my little story. Until next time, see you on the next one.